With the 8th pick in the NFL draft and the 73rd and the 136th and 190th, the strategy was clear. Surround your franchise quarterback with weapons and at the bare minimum, make this team fun to watch again. They ignored most of the media pundits and many fans at the same time. Who said it would have been wiser and safer to build a defense? We don't care what they think, said the New Orleans Saints. Not to toot our own horn, but who am I kidding? Of course I'm going to toot our own horn. We told you for weeks this would be the strategy. In fact, the Saints took it a step further, going offense with 4 of their first 5 picks. They didn't draft an edge rusher at all, instead choosing to trade a 5th-round draft pick for a former 1st-round draft pick. And they didn't touch a corner until the 5th and 7th rounds. In the city that care forgot, the Saints didn't care about injury concerns at all. And in turn, we could have one hell of an exciting season in 2026, or we could fill up auction's waiting room. We're not sure which. Well, let's follow with our draft night partner, Zach Ewing, for another take on Jordyn, Tyson, and the rest of the Saints NFL draft, as we will both give you way too early grades. And Gabe is here to share his thoughts and to take his shot on Dat Date in history. We'll also have our poll question of the day, and we will share exciting news about the week ahead, a very special week on this little show we call the Dattitude podcast, and it's up next.
Ready to hear the straight scoop on local and national sports? It's time for Jim Derry's take on the Saints, LSU, what betting lines to ponder, and more. He's got opinions, he's got insight, and he's got Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? It is happy 500 week. We're excited about the draft. That does not mean we're going to tell you we told you so 500 times, but it does mean we'll tell you this. This is Dattitude, episode number 498, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Monday, April the 27th, 2026, last Monday of April. You want to see what my Shaw math can figure out? Wednesday will be the last Wednesday of April when we do Wednesday. However, there's only 30 days in April. See how quick we did that? So Friday is going to be May 1st. We have a special episode on Friday. It'll be show number 500. We got some great stuff coming up this week. But before we get to this week, let me tell you about today's show. I wanted to follow up on the draft. We've had a lot of Zach Ewing the last few weeks. I know, I get it. But I wanted Zach to come on again because we did our live draft show together. I think he's not only just a phenomenal guest, but I think it's important to go through what the Saints did in the draft. I am interested to get your take. It's going to be kind of a half Mono-y Monday and half Zach. Zach's not coming on until 11:40. So we got him coming on a little bit later today as I brighten things up. It's a little dark today right here. There we go. It's a little bit better. We're going to go over some of the things that, of course, we're not just going to talk about Jordyn Tyson today. We're talking about a lot of things. We're going to talk about the strategy, which, again, was clear. I got to say, I'm not surprised at exactly what they did, but I guess I was surprised 4 draft picks with skill position players. I mean, if you include Oscar Delp as a skill position player, and I do. I mean, I count tight end as a skill position player. It may not be in the long run. I mean, whatever. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? 3 receivers. One of them, obviously, is a return specialist, so we don't necessarily count him. But the strategy was clear from the get-go. We're going to hear from you. I am going to go to the comments in just a little bit. I have a few things to say first before we get there. But that is going to be our show today. Gabe's going to come on in a little bit. I have no idea what Gabe's going to have to talk about today. He can talk about whatever he wants. And we're going to have an interesting Dat Date today. There were twice in Saints history they drafted in the first round today in their history. Both of the picks on Dat Date were iffy. One more iffy than one, just kind of stunk. And one we're still figuring out because one was very recent. So we're going to get to that in Dat Date. I'll also tell you some just interesting things that happened on April 27th in history. One of them here in New Orleans. We'll tell you about that coming up a little bit later. As I said, an absolutely crazy week. You see today is show number 498. You don't need Shaw math to figure out that 498 is today, 499 is Wednesday, 500 is coming on Friday. We're excited about it. Stan Verrett is going to be our guest on Friday. I'm really looking forward to that. He is going to be on for 20, 30 minutes, and he was our guest on show number 1. We reached out to him to do show number 500. And he graciously said yes, so we're excited about that. Wednesday, Jeff Duncan. We haven't had Jeff Duncan on in a while. He's coming on, and I'm working on another guest. It could be Wednesday. We'll see. It could be Wednesday, could be Friday. We'll see. But did you see the guy who was the international announcer or whatever? I don't know what he announced, the 4th round or whatever. He had some. He did it in a fun way. Let's just say that. We're looking to get him on the show either Wednesday or Friday. He lives I believe he's from Paris. I believe that's where he's from. So anyway, we've been in conversation back and forth, and we're hoping he can come on the show. We'll tell you more about that later on. But there's some fun things going on at this show. Maybe we'll have some clips. Maybe we'll have a clip or two to show you during the week. I meant to pull some clips today. I wanted to really pull my clip from, if you haven't seen my short, okay? And again, I'm going to tell you what I think about Jordyn, Tyson, and the rest of them. But look, it's not just tooting my horn. I'm going to tell you why I think it was not only the right pick, but it was the pick that the Saints had to make at number 8. I get Caleb Downs was still available. Blah, 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 blah. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo. We told you what the Saints were going to do. And look, one thing that we've been good at, and I don't get everything right. I'm not proclaiming that I get everything right. I don't even come close to getting everything right. Just ask my wife. Probably 20%. Nah, I'm more than that, but maybe according to her, I'm 20%. The point is that reading through the tea leaves and what's common sense. If it makes common sense, it's usually going to be true. What would make the most sense going into this draft is to build around your franchise. You believe you have your franchise quarterback in the building. Now, the jury's still out. He's only played 9 or 10 games or whatever it is. But I think most of us believe that at the bare minimum, the Saints are going forward as if they have their franchise quarterback. I don't think anyone doubts that. So what do? You surround your franchise quarterback with weapons. This is a team that averaged, 18 points per game last year. You cannot continue to go on. You have to make this game at the bare minimum. Next year, if the defense stinks, then you go into 2027 and you build your defense, and you're going to have more money in free agency. You'll be able to do more things in free agency, but you have to make it so people want to come here, okay? I don't personally, and I think there are a lot of other people that feel the same way I do, is I don't want to go through another season like the last few where the offense just absolutely sucks, okay? I don't want to deal with that again. And I'm saying because I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. And so, yeah, you took a gamble. You took a guy in Jordyn Tyson. It's an absolute gamble. There's no question about it. Okay. And I watched a lot of reviews about Jordyn Tyson last night, went through YouTube, scoured YouTube, getting ready for the show today. I must have went through 15 of them. And most of them are people I respect. And they were all over the place. They were literally all over the place. Okay. I thought Steve Smith was one of the most interesting ones, the former Carolina Panther and Raven wide receiver, who I thought is just a fantastic receiver in his day. He doesn't like to pick. And I was watching his review actually before he was picked. He thought Jordyn Tyson was too big a risk for anyone to take early in the draft. But then there were other ones who were saying you're getting the best. You're getting maybe not only the best receiver in the draft. There were some people saying he might be the best player in the draft when you look at it later on. I don't know. I mean, you look at what the Cardinals did. The Cardinals had to take Jeremiah Love at number 3. You know why? Because all that crap about the Saints or anyone else moving up to 3 was a bunch of horse hockey. Nobody wanted to move up that high. They didn't want to pay the price that it took. Interesting things. Again, we're going to spend pretty much all morning and into the afternoon talking about the draft. Again, Zach coming on about 11:40. Definitely want to spend a lot of time talking about your comments this morning. Gabe will be coming on after that. And speaking of Gabe, he put our poll question of the day together. And so we'll ask you again before we really get started here this morning. The poll question of the day is this. Other than Jordyn Tyson, because that's, again, we're going to get in our thoughts about Jordyn Tyson as we go along. So I didn't want you to vote on Jordyn Tyson. So do not count Jordyn Tyson, whether you love him or hate him, whatever it is. The poll question of the day is, other than Jordyn Tyson, who is your favorite New Orleans Saints draft pick? And I put three skill position players up there as 1, 2, and 3. If it's other, then pick other. But if you think Oscar Delp was the best or your favorite or whatever it is, type in the number 1. Just the number 1, nothing else. Not number, not pound sign, nothing, just 1. Other than Jordyn Tyson, who was your favorite draft pick? If it's Oscar Delp, 1. Type 2. If it's Barian Brown from LSU. Type 3. If it's Bryce Lance from North Dakota State, the speedy wide receiver. Or type 4 if it's someone else. And then if it's someone else, after you type 4, tell me who your favorite one was. Do not type in Jordyn Tyson. That's a whole different one. We'll talk about that going forward. And I'm going to have Gabe type in my answer because, yes, I voted in the last poll, and I like voting it. I don't care. It's my poll. I can vote in if I want. My answer is 3. Bryce Lance. Bryce Lance is probably my second. I mean, other than Jordyn Tyson, again, I think Bryce Lance is a fantastic pick for where he was drafted. I think he comes in right away. Now, when I was doing some scouting of what people were thinking about Jordyn Tyson last night, I also did some scouting on Bryce Lance as well. And I went straight to see Steve Smith to get his opinion. And look, this is a kid who has the speed. He's got raw skills, but he's going to need a lot of coaching. Is he going to be ready to go right away? Probably not. You probably see him play some. I don't think again, here we are on April 27th. It's way too early to say, is he going to be on an active roster? Is he going to be a practice squad guy? Whatever. Will he make it to the practice squad guy? Those are guys you probably don't risk to go to the practice squad. But Bryce Lance is a guy with his speed I think could go right away. Barian Brown's an interesting candidate. An LSU guy, only the 11th guy in, can you believe that? In the Saints history. Not first round, fourth round, third round. Barian Brown is just the 11th LSU Tiger the Saints have ever chosen in an NFL draft. I mean, I could think of 11 Ohio State Buckeyes over the last 10 years, probably. Go through it. I mean, they had one this year again. I mean, when's the last time the Saints go a draft without taking an Ohio State Buckeye? They always take one or 2 or 3 or whatever. But Barian Brown's an interesting candidate. Does he come in? Does he fill that role as a return specialist? Because we have seen the Saints don't care about, they will use an active roster spot to have a guy who comes in and is a kick returner. Does he fill the place of Rashid Shaheed? Some people think he does. So Barian Brown's an interesting candidate. And Oscar Delp just kind of flies under the radar, doesn't he? Oscar Delp, a tight end that the Saints desperately needed. Look, I had kind of predicted on SI. You can check out my stuff, by the way. If you don't know, I'm Jim Derry. Been on the New Orleans sports media scene for 35 and a half years now. And I am a beat writer for Sports Illustrated, cover the New Orleans Saints on SI. Check out my stuff from this past weekend, man. I think I wrote more stories this past weekend than I've written in the last month combined. But Oscar Delp is an interesting candidate because I really thought the Saints, remember last week when I was talking in the week before that, I was talking about the potential of the Saints going wide receiver. Well, going into day 2, I really thought there was a chance the Saints might go Eli Stowers with the second pick, with their second round pick. They did not. They chose to go Kristen Miller, and they went defensive tackle, which I think is an interesting pick in itself. They obviously wanted to show up. The Saints, everybody was talking about edge rusher and cornerback. The Saints didn't think that defending the pass was their biggest problem. No. They obviously thought they needed to stuff the run because that's on defense. That's where they went. They went with guys who could stuff the run. And they even did it in free agency and in a trade. So we're going to talk about some of those things that the Saints did outside of the draft. That's coming up. We're going to talk about undrafted free agents is coming up. So the poll question one more time before we take it off the screen. You could still vote once we take the question off the screen. We're going to show it again when Zach comes up. Other than Jordyn Tyson, who was your favorite New Orleans Saints draft pick? You still can vote. Type in 1 if your answer is Oscar Delp. Type in 2 if it's Barry and Brown. Type in 3 if it's Bryce Lance. Type in 4 if it's someone else. And if it's someone else, please tell me in the comments after you type in 4 who it might be. You can still tell. Obviously, if you're not watching live, you can't do that. All right. A reminder as we get started here this morning to subscribe to the Dattitude podcast on YouTube. We would love it. That's the best way to help this channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up, and click the little bell. Receive notification when we go on the air live. We are back to our regular schedule, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday live at 11 a.m. Central. And later on, as you watch the show and you get used to us, if you feel, if you would love to contribute to independent journalism, independent broadcasting, whatever you want to call it, call us the PBS of sports broadcasting. Not really, but whatever. You know what I mean. You can become a member. You can figure out how to do that. It's pretty easy. If you want to talk to me, you can find me on X at Jim Derry Jr. Email me at jim@jimderry.com. What is different about this show if you're new? You type in a comment. We will show it. We will respond back to you. Again, on this Mono-y Monday, and I got 22 minutes until Zach's coming on. So we got to get to comments. Before we get to the rest of the show, let me tell you about our friends at Evangeline Securities. Of course, they are a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can help you figure out what that business is worth. Every business is a first-round draft pick for Evangeline Securities. If that's you, someone you know, someone you love, someone you want to help, it's time to reach out to Evangeline's founding partner, Nick Braden. He will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from his office, either on Poydras Street or in Lafayette. From there, you'll be well-informed. Begin to make the decision on if you want to proceed. What happens after that? We'll tell you later in the show, after Zach leaves us. In the meantime, you can check him out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. You can also check out our friend, Joe DiStefano. If you own a small business of fewer than 20 employees, you know how tough it is to get the best rates on health insurance. That's why you want to call Joe DiStefano Insurance. Joe and I have known each other for almost 40 years. I can tell you that he's someone that I trust. Look, health insurance shouldn't be one size fits all, and with Joe DiStefano, you get access to PPO networks and flexible plans designed to fit you, not just a cookie cutter mold. Joe's licensed, he's local, but he can help you no matter where you live and operate. From preventative care to peace of mind, we'll tailor a plan that works for your life today and tomorrow. Call Joe DiStefano at 504-234-2132 to protect what matters most. Let's get this show on the road. We are getting this show on the road. Before we get back into Saints, this is going to be the only really, besides the that date coming up a little bit, a little bit at the end of the show. This might end up being like an hour and 45-minute show today. We'll see. I've been trying to keep him to 90 minutes, but I'm not always been successful there. We're trying to get to a 90-minute show instead of 2 hours. 2 hours is a little bit too long, but two things I want to talk about this morning before we get to Saints. First off, and the comments are coming up next. LSU baseball. Look, I'm going to give you 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes of LSU baseball because that's not what we want to talk about today. But swept by Mississippi State for the first time since I was a senior in high school. What year was that? A long time ago. Let's just say that. LSU baseball was swept by Mississippi State for the first time since I was a senior in high school. Just goes to show you, you get told enough that you suck, then you're going to suck. They had two ways they could respond to Jay Johnson's speech last weekend. We told you about it. If not, go back and watch the show from last Monday. They could either say, F you, Joe Boo, I do it myself, or they could crumple up in a little ball, and they chose to do the latter. Look, this team, they just don't have it. And not every team's going to have it. It's okay when you win 2 national championships in 3 years, you've earned a pass. I mean, that's our spiel on LSU. That's all we're going to spend on LSU baseball today. What else can I say? Some of you kept pounding on how much they suck, and they suck. Good for you. You know, I enjoyed the 4 to 5 weeks that they were fun to watch and mash in the baseball. And, you know, some of you didn't. Some of you didn't enjoy it. Some of you just are negative Nellies. And I can be Derry Downer. I get it. I'm not trying to be a hypocrite, but look, LSU baseball stinks this year. It is what it is. They're not going to the NCAA tournament. And that's our segment on LSU baseball today. And then lastly, again, before we move on to back to the Saints in the NFL draft, the Zurich Classic. Sorry, look, I know UBN probably wants to talk about it. We did. I can't get into a golf tournament that's played like some weird exhibition, even if it is here in New Orleans. And they do it on NFL Draft and Jazz Fest weekend. I don't get the PGA scheduling, people. I just don't get it. You would think that you would schedule your tournament, PGA, this weekend in a city that doesn't have an NFL team. But congrats to Matt and Alex Fitzpatrick. One-shot win, a record 31 under. And it's the first PGA win for Alex Fitzpatrick. Does it count? I guess. They defeated Alex Smalley and Hayden Springer. Who? I watch golf. I don't know who that is. And Christopher Retan and Chris Ventura, two guys who spell their first names with a K. Again, who? I mean, I guess it was cool to see the Fitzpatricks with their parents there and they were beaming and blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry, Zurich Classic. Y'all got to do something about this. You got to, can you beg the PGA to get this tournament so it's not on NFL Draft weekend and Jazz Fest? I mean, it's absurd. You got to do something about that. Anyway, that's your Zurich. You got a local PGA tournament and you get 1 minute on Dattitude. It is what it is. Big story was the NFL Draft. It is what it is. Again, we're getting ready to get into all the comments, but I thought, what I thought was the most interesting thing of this draft, other than the Saints stuff, obviously. But, it was a weird draft when almost every set of rankings I see have the Browns and the Jets in the top 5, especially the Jets. The GD Jets in the top 5, almost everywhere. Pretty cool stuff. It was a great weekend. Let's get to the comments as I switch over, and we're pretty much Saints the rest of the way here, so we'll switch on over to our slide here. First comment, going to the top. A-Town's here. Good morning. What a great day to be a card-carrying member of the Who Dat Nation and Dattitude family. Love the draft picks. Hope they can all contribute this season. I'm going to give my grade in a little bit. Also, he says, hopefully some diamonds in the rough with the UDFAs. Yep. Rocky's here. Good morning. Great draft. Some risks, maybe, but definitely addressed areas of need. Just have to put it all together. Pretty sure Cam is out. Yep. We'll get into that. I didn't even think about that, Rock. We will definitely talk about Cam Jordyn. I wrote a story about it on SI about the signings. And, when you look at what the Saints did this weekend with the draft and Anthony Jennings and Tyree Wilson, getting Tyree Wilson in the draft in a trade, probably means the end of the line for Cam Jordyn. I could be wrong. Maybe the first time I was wrong. Although I haven't been wrong much this week. I'm just saying. Also wants to know, do I think Darian Brown makes it as a return specialist? Look, I think he's probably going to be a practice squad kind of guy. 6th round pick, prime candidate for the practice squad. However, we have seen guys have great camps, great mini camps, great rookie camps, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? You mean just stirring pots already. Good morning. Couldn't find a pick of Tyson in a hospital game. He's got to be at auction already. Boy. Musette's here. Good morning. Excited about the draft picks. It's going to be a fun season to watch. And look, that's part of this, right? Part of this all is about excitement and making this team exciting again. I'm sick of 18 points a game. I'm sick of 28th in 28th in rushing, or they moved up to 15th in passing or whatever it was only because Chuck had a great final 6-7 games. But in the grand scheme of things, I mean, how many times have we seen over the course of the past 3 years the dome kind of filled in the bottom bowl with fans of other people's teams? I'm sick of that crap. I don't want to see that crap anymore. You know how you do it? You fix it by you put butts in the seats with offense. This is not, I said this in my short, this is not 1986 when you could win games with the Chicago Bears, the monsters in the Midway, the great Chicago Bears team that won the Super Bowl because they had a ridiculous defense. The 2000 Ravens who won the Super Bowl. Because, yeah, you cannot win championships and you can't put butts in the seat. And look, I'm an old school guy, but you can't win like that anymore. You can't win with just defense. Okay. I get maybe the Saints should have, in a lot of your minds, and we're going to get to it. I mean, in a lot of your minds, the Saints didn't do enough to address defense in the draft. Well, you know what? They did address defense in other ways with a free agent signing And with a trade for a guy who probably not on the same level as Chase Young, but you think about what Tyree Wilson brings to this team, a former 7th overall pick for the Raiders, wasn't working out for him there. He wasn't horrendous. It wasn't great by any means. Certainly didn't live up to his status, but could a change of scenery do some great help for a guy like Tyree Wilson? I think it can. And if it doesn't work out, Saints don't lose anything. But this is still a transition year, folks. Okay? You're transitioning into what you want to be, and you hope you get there. But if you do it in 2026, great. If you go 10-7 in 2026, fantastic. You know what the goal is next year? At least for me, it's to score up that 18 points per game to like 24 points per game. That's a lot. Going up 6 points per game. Gabe, could you look up for me? Could you tell me where 24 points per game would have ranked last year in points for? And Gabe's going to find that out for him. But go from 18 points per game to 24 points per game, which is absolutely doable. With this draft and the free agent class that they've had so far, absolutely doable. And right off the bat, you get people excited about where you are. That's where they need to go. A-Town also says that I did not go nuke. No, man. I didn't go nuke. In fact, I was going to cut out my reaction from the draft, but I just ran out of time. There were lots of things I was going to do this morning. I just didn't get to it. I've been so busy. I'm just done. Okay. So Gabe tells me that if 24 points per game would be 13th between Cincinnati's 24.3 and Houston's 23.7. If the Saints end up 13th in points per game next year, I think everyone would say that's a success, right? Considering where they've been, that would be a success in my opinion. So to go from, I don't even know what the number is. I think they were 28th in points per game, somewhere along those lines. They stunk. Okay. They were not good. Again, and that's only got upped a little bit because Shuck sort of saved the team a little bit. They have got to get better on offense. And to me, maybe when you think about what they did, they didn't go. I wasn't a huge fan of the Kristen Miller pick. I think obviously he could be a great player. I didn't understand going interior defensive line there. But again, they decided they wanted the stuff to run. Again, we're going to get into all the picks as we go along. But plan A, as you see the headline here today, surround Shuck with the weapons. They went plan A, plan AA, plan AAA. And that's what they did. And I thought it was fantastic. Chad Gage is excited about the draft, even though they didn't pick defense, Chad Gage. Dylan Smith, we take receipts here, Chad. But we love you anyway. Dylan Smith, good morning. He thinks we had a pretty good draft too, Dad. Go ahead. Y'all can give you grades if you want. We're going to get to them. Earl's picks, he's liking the moves. Mark Gapsky, good morning. Thought we did great in the draft. Love Tyson and Delp in the picks. Charles Mangus got a grade. He's going to give it an A. UBN's going to be a party pooper and say nobody knows he'll give his grade on episode 999. Our grades silly, especially 2 days after the draft, of course. But they're fun. It's just, look, I'm going to go, mock drafts are stupid, okay? I've said this for as long as I've been in the business. Mock drafts are dumb. But what are they? They are entertainment. Mock drafts are solely for entertainment purposes only. They give no information whatsoever. Remember Daniel Jeremiah, who is one of the know-it-alls. And look, I'm not blasting on DJ because I like him. I think he's a great analyst. I enjoy watching his stuff. I enjoy reading his stuff. I think he's very good at what he does. But that being said, remember 3 days before the draft, the big rumors about the Saints moving up 3 and the Saints were going to trade up with the Cardinals and they were going to draft Arvell Reese or who else? Who were they going to draft? Arvell Reese or who? I can't even remember that. Whatever he said. The point is, they were never going to draft for defense up there. Okay? They were never going to draft defense at number 8, in my opinion. The only way that the Saints would have drafted defense, in my opinion, is if Tyson would have been gone too. And then the Saints and Caleb Downs was still available, which he was. And then you go for Caleb Downs. I think that would have happened. If Tyson would have been gone, if the Commanders would have taken Tyson after Tate was gone, after Love was gone, then I think the Saints might have gone down, or they may have traded down, or they may have taken Mekhi Lemon. Who knows? But I think, again, it's unquestionably was the Saints' MO from the get-go. We are going to surround Tyler Shuck with weapons. They wanted Jordyn Tyson. They got Jordyn Tyson. Again, not just because I've been saying it. A lot of people, Nick Underhill, I think that was something he loved from the get-go. He was talking about it. Been talking about it. You know? Gabe says grades are dumber than mock drafts. I think they're equally as dumb. But you have to do them because, again, entertainment purposes only. Right? All right. What else we got? Jim Radcliffe. Good morning from, I hope it's sunny California today. What else we got here? Mr. Working Man, I know you. I did not read your comment, but I'm guessing you're not happy. Let's see what you say. Good morning. I think this draft will eventually be a good to above average draft with at least 2 potential Pro Bowlers. I'm glad you came. I expected you not to be happy this morning. I'm glad it sounds like you're good with everything. Coach Silva's here. Plan is clear and smart. I like it as well. A-Town says he hopes the May 8th episode of Dattitude would be magnificent. That's your birthday. Well, happy birthday. It will be show number 503, and I'm sure it will be fantastic. I didn't even think about that. Monday, what is that, 9, 10, 11? Monday the 11th, show 504. Should we do something special? Of course, we got to have somebody from New Orleans. We got to have some kind of yad on for show number 504, don't we? Apathy says the weirdest thing about the draft wasn't Ty Simpson going 13. It was the reaction from Saints fans towards Mark Ingram reading off a Ravens pick. You know, I didn't even see that, obviously, because I was on a draft show. I got to say, I had one of my best friends texted me about it. He was pissed off. Who cares? Come on, man. What was he supposed to say? I mean, he went up there to announce the Ravens pick. Is he supposed to say, oh, and go Saints, by the way? No, of course. Come on, man. I don't get it. Why was everybody pissed off about that? San Luis Obispo, who that's here? Good morning from the West Coast. He thinks it was a good draft. The proof is in the pudding. Of course. When Smoke's here, good morning. Definitely feel like we need more offense. Defense outperformed the offense last year by far. I mean, Smoke, it wasn't even close, wouldn't you say? It wasn't really even that close. What's up, Cannon? Glad you're here. No, Hart said he was going to be pissed if they drafted Jordyn Tyson with the 8th pick of the draft, and he says the Tyson injury history concerns him, but if he stays healthy, he's the best wide receiver in this draft. He's talked himself into it. I love it. You know what's funny? It's not, and I don't mean this funny, ha. Maybe I do. I don't know. Whatever. It's interesting. Let's put it that way. All the people who you can't draft Jordyn, not all of them, but most of them, they have talked them, and you should talk yourself into Jordyn Tyson being a great pick. You know why you're talking yourself in? Because he is a great pick. Because that's what this team needs. This team needs Jordyn Tyson. Is he going to be on IR? I sure hope not, but it's possible. But you know what? It's possible that Caleb Downs will come in here and be on IR. But with his injury, stop it with the injury history. Anybody can get hurt at any more of a chance. Yes, there's more of a chance of a lot of things. But I don't know. I guess I'm preaching to some people who aren't gamblers. I'm a gambler. I've been a gambler my whole life. I love gambling. Mickey Loomis is a gambler. I love it. I said this on my short the other day. Again, if you haven't seen it, you get all my thoughts on why I thought Jordyn Tyson was fantastic. My last 2 shorts, as a matter of fact, were on Jordyn Tyson. One after the draft and one right before. It was the right thing to do. Hakeem, big dog, you're here. Charles Mangus also talking about how Tyson was so emotional. He thinks he will perform to his best. Yeah, I mean, he's gonna. I mean, of course he was emotional. Adam Varner, Saints killed it. Exactly. Gabe pointing out that Mark Ingram said it was because the Ravens asked him to do it and the Saints didn't. I mean, come on, man. Some people pick stuff out of just, it's not that big of a deal. One Smoke says that Tyson's injury concern is overblown. I don't think I would go that far, even though I love the pick. I don't think it's overblown. Okay. It is a big deal, but come on. Anyway. Got a tackle in his knee that caused the ACL tear, and as Steve Smith said in his review, lots of L's, ACL, MCL, PCL. And this year was the first year that he dealt with a hamstring. Yeah, but he also had broken collarbone. Look, I'm not underplaying the injury concern because there is an injury concern. I just think it's worth the risk. You know? David Nola says he loves the Styles pick. We're going to get into the Styles pick because I actually think that's a very interesting Lorenzo Styles. A-Town says the defensive tackle from Georgia. You know, again, I talked about this about 10 minutes ago. I understand you're trying to stuff the run and you're getting better in the run, but I don't know, man. From what I've heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, but the word is that the Saints had a couple of edge rushers on their plate and they both got taken like right before they were going to pick. So maybe that's it. I don't know. Hart's going to give him a grade. He says A-. Tyson health concern and wish we went cornerback earlier, but we did everything, made sense, filled needs. He definitely filled needs. Hakeem hopes that Lance can fill his potential, of course. Hart also says he loves the trade for Tyree Wilson, solid rotational player with upside. And that's it. Upside. I mean, that's kind of the point. Zach's texting me now. He says he's going to be on in 5 minutes. So we'll be trying to get through as many of these comments as I can get through here in the early going. David also said 35 years. I started writing on the Saints when I was 5. I wish, David. I wish. I started in this business. First thing I ever did was I wrote a story. And, you know, it's funny because I said this before. I have the clip somewhere. I wrote about I covered a Bell Chase football game on August the 31st, 1990. That's a long time ago. And I don't even remember who Bell Chase played. I don't remember whether they won. I just remember being there. And somewhere I have the clip. I have to go look at it. But yeah, that was the first thing I ever covered was a football game. 1990. It'll be 36 years this August. So it's really more than 35 and a half years. Jerry's here. What's going on? Glad you're here. JT's voting in the poll. Glad you're here. Who else we got going on? He says, no Saints stream. Yeah, it's Jerry. We're so glad you're here. Big Vellies. I haven't seen you in a while, Big Velly. Where you been? He also likes the Styles pick. Interested to see how they use him, if they use him at all. I think they will. I do think that they'll find a way to use him. Now, again, that's another guy. He says Smoke says he's going to use him as a gunner. I do think that Styles will probably is a prime candidate for practice squad. Again, it's hard to say on April 27th who's going to be practice squad, right? Randall, glad to see you this morning. Glad you're here. Plunky Morris, he likes the kick returner guy we drafted along with the speedy Barrion Brown. Well, I guess you're talking about Styles, who also is a special teams guy. So that's another reason why Lorenzo Styles makes sense for this team. By the way, if you didn't know this, and I'm sure most of you do, the brother of Sonny Styles, he got picked right ahead of the Saints at number 7. Just think if they would have had an interesting choice to make. Had Sonny Styles fell, what if Tyson goes at 7 to the Commanders? What happens then? And Styles and Downs are on the board to this. And I thought one of the shocks of the draft, nobody's really talked about it. I told you I was going to be pissed. The only thing that was probably going to make me pissed and go off during the live draft show was if the Saints drafted Mansour Delane with the 8th pick of the draft. I told you that I didn't think he was worthy of the 8th pick, not because I don't think Mansour Delane is going to be a great pick. I think he will be a fine NFL player. That being said, the Chiefs jumped up to draft Mansour Delane. That, to me, that might be even more surprising than Simpson. I think it is for me. Simpson, I understand. I mean, you know, Gabe's been talking about the Rams potentially that maybe Garrett Nussmeier would be a spot, but he also said Ty Simpson might be a spot. We've talked about the Rams wanting a quarterback. By the way, did you see McVay's reaction to – I don't think McVay was in on taking Ty Simpson in the first round. That was kind of funny, actually. We may talk about that a little bit later. Gabe, remind me. I kind of want to – maybe we'll touch on that when you come up. We'll probably talk a little bit about Garrett Nussmeier. Surprised that when you're talking about injuries and you don't really know what the injuries are, at least with a guy like Tyson, you know what the injuries are. You got to see him in a pro day. With Garrett Nussmeier, and I'm not making any excuses for him, his whole senior season was ruined. And people weren't willing to take the risk until the 7th round. Well, Garrett Nussmeier make it on a roster? I don't know. I hope he does because I really think he has potential. But that being said, look, when all they talk about is your injuries and they haven't seen enough of you to have trust, they didn't have trust that Garrett Nussmeier was worthy of a 3rd-round pick, which is where he was expected to go. We'll talk about that later. Ryan O'Shea says, good morning. Loomis's tendency for high risk, high reward is wild. At least he's consistent. It got us Breeze, but it also killed many of us. It also killed us many a time. We'll see how this goes. Look, you could play it safe all you want. What are you going to do? Obviously, the Saints' philosophy is this, okay? They thought they needed to go offense, period, okay? You look at what they did, not just in the 1st round, but in this draft, and it's clear. The title of today's show is Saints Plan in 2026 NFL Draft was clear and obvious from the start. They were going to surround Shuck with weapons. And so with the first pick of this draft, they weren't going defense. I told you this last week. I told you this 2 weeks ago. I think last week my final percentage was 80% offense in the 1st round, 20% defense in the 1st round. I just don't think. Now, again, it would have been interesting. Had Tyson been taken and Love, Tate, and Tyson were all gone, would they have dropped down or would they just have reached and said, the hell with it, we're taking Mekhi Lemon? Because I also think that was a possibility. I don't think the Saints wanted to go defense there. So you can talk about the risk all you want. The Saints' philosophy was, going into this draft, we need to shore up our offense because they are also sick and tired of seeing an offense that absolutely reeks with no depth whatsoever. And you could say they don't have depth on defense. Maybe you're right. Gabe, can you send Zach a link to the show, please? This is whatever it is, okay? I think this is the 3rd year in a row. Again, I will give my draft later. But I think all the people, I don't hear people really complaining about Mickey today. They think this is the 3rd really good draft this team has had in a row. I don't think it's really that debatable. Because if you go through, and I did a thing on SI yesterday, I put together the overall draft grades and the individual draft grades and went through the quote-unquote experts. And the lowest grade I could find was a B. B minus. That's the lowest grade I could find was a B minus. I think by all accounts, the Saints had one of the top 10 drafts in this draft overall. Is Jordyn, Tyson? Let's see what some of the grade. In fact, I'll rate some. You go find it on SI. Saints. If you Google Saints on SI, it'll come up. You click on it. It's the 2nd or 3rd story. I can't remember. But here, some of the grades. I gave it an A. Not everybody gave it a great grade. My colleague at Sports Illustrated, Matt Vetteram, gave it a C. Carter Bonds of CBS Sports, B+. Chad Reuter of NFL.com, B. Jeff Duncan and Cat Terrell only offered analysis, but you can read through the lines somewhere in the B to C range. Ben Lindsay of Pro Football Focus, good. Just says good. That's the grade. There are different ways to look at it. But overall, when you look at this draft as a whole and what the philosophy was, I think by all accounts, the Saints, I haven't seen anyone say less than B minus. Maybe Zach will in just a minute. He's in the green room. Randall says he's fired up about Miller. Yeah, I mean, look, they're shoring up that run defense for sure. Earl says he's always a pretty positive person, but he feels really great about what the Saints are putting together this draft, trades, and free agency. I agree. This is going to be a different team next year. I can tell you what, this is not going to be, and I'm not talking about win total, and I didn't even look up, maybe I'll do that with Zach in a little bit. Gabe, look up the win total, see if it changed from 7.5. I doubt that it's changed from 7.5. A couple other real quick. Again, Zach's in the green room, and I want to get to him. So I apologize if I'm passing over a few. Houghton Saints nailed it. This is still a rebuilding year. Absolutely, it is. It's still a rebuilding year. You can't overlook that fact that this is still a rebuilding year. If the Saints win 10 games and somehow win this division and go to the playoffs, or win 9 games and win the division, which is possible. I think the ceiling is 10. Okay. I think the ceiling is 10. I think this is still a 7-8 win kind of team. Okay. But you take that next step and then you're ready for 2027. And if they do go to the playoffs, then it's lanyard. For all the Steves here, the Saints are making them hopeful. As Jim Morris said, playoffs. That's right. Playoffs. I hope I don't mess up your name. Dorite, or is it Dorit? He likes what the Saints did in the draft. Seems Loomis let the coaches make the pick. I think there's no question that Kellen Moore had a huge input in there. Steel Bill probably would have took Styles. You think they would have took Styles? I could see that. And again, a couple more. I'm going to come back. Who dat from Orlando? He also says. Charles Tiger Edwards. Tiger, what's going on? Did they really or didn't get a deal worthwhile? I think they did pretty good. And then a couple more that are from, here's a new fan here, new Dat, Michael Lyons. I think part of your comment cut off there, but we welcome you to the show. We're glad you're here. The first time I've seen your name. And then again, here it is. It says when the Saints came in the NFL, they had their meeting on St. Charles at the Pontchartrain Hotel. That's right. They sure did. So you're in my age range, I think, there. All right. I'm going to come back to the comments and maybe show some of them while Zach is on here. But he's got to be off by about 12:10, so he's only got about 20 minutes this morning. And by the way, Gabe Henderson says the over-under is still 7.5. It is now juiced more to the over at -120. The under is +100. Zach Ewing, have either one of us got any sleep in the last few days?
You know, it's funny. I actually slept in Sunday and missed church.
Did you really?
Without meaning to. I just, normally I naturally wake up at
I actually slept late yesterday too.
Even if I don't set an alarm, I'll wake up at 9:30, and church is until 11. So if I woke up at 10:30,
right.
And my wife did too, because she had been working all weekend. And so we're just like, well, I guess we needed that. I think
we all did. And, I felt, look, I got up and I wrote a bunch of stories yesterday after writing, I wrote like 8 Saturday. I have no idea how many I wrote, but I said, I'm sorry. I've got to sleep. My sanity needs sleep. My wife had spent the whole weekend out on a work function. So I was going to sleep as long as the girls did. And I think I woke up at like 11. It was fantastic. Wow. So that doesn't happen very often. Anyway, let's get to the Saints. I know you got to be out of here in about 20 minutes or so. There's one comment I kind of want to lead into kind of where we're going to go with this morning. And Kenny Chasson says, I believe the quote plan is to build around Chuck. Excuse me. First, let him develop in more system. And then as that's happening, you build the rest of the team and hopefully become a real contender. Your thoughts?
I mean, sure. That's very logical. I think that this draft showed they really believe in Tyler Shuck as the leader of this offense and the leader of this team. That's still a little bit of a gamble in my book, because as good as Shuck was, it was 9 games. It was mostly against poor competition. So, when adversity hits early in this season, which it will sooner or later, how do the Saints handle that? How does Shuck handle that? Can he stay healthy? I mean, I know we sat there and said, well, Tyler Shuck's an example of why you should take an injury risk, because sometimes they work out. Well, he's also only played 9 games. I mean, I don't think he's proven that he's going to be not a health concern long term. So there's still a lot of question marks. So there's a little bit of a gamble there, but at the same time, I think it's a gamble worth taking, just simply because you don't come across a really good quarterback very often in this league. And so if you have a chance of having that, you go take a swing.
Before we continue with the draft stuff, we got to show this real quick. UBN, thank you for the $25 super chat. And he says, thank you, M's, for sweeping them Cardinals. Save these super chats for Tyson's medical bills. Speaking of the M's real quick, and I did mean to bring, I like to talk about a few things I saw over the weekend. There's so much stuff with the draft, I didn't get to this. But there was one moment in the M's Cardinals game, and I don't know if it was yesterday or for Saturday, where the dude struck out. It was called
yesterday.
yesterday. A called strike 3 that was about 2.5. They measured it. I think it was 2.62 inches off the plate. Doesn't challenge it. Now it's 0-2.
Go ahead.
So now it's 0-2. It gets to 3-2, and then a called strike 3 that's over 5 inches off the plate. Dude taps his head. They review it. Obviously, it was the right call. I'm sorry, it was 2-2, and then it was 3-2. And then the next pitch, he hits it out of the park for a go-ahead, which ended up being a game-winning home run. How can you be, if you're an umpire, how can you be off by 5 inches, by the way?
It was 5.9 something.
That's
it was almost 6
insane.
inches. And so I watched almost that whole game. I don't get to watch, 9 innings of games very often, but because we were just sort of relaxing yesterday, I had a beer and turned it on and watched almost the whole thing. And that umpire, let me tell you, Jim, the Cardinals, I believe, were 4 of 5 on challenges, and the Mariners were 4 of 4. And the only challenge the Cardinals missed was with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th. And J.J. Weatherholt, he challenged one because he went down 0-2 in the count. It was the last batter of the game, and it was kind of a desperation thing, and he wasn't right. But they were right every other time, and there was at least 5 other times they could have challenged and didn't, and would have been right. It was abominable umpiring. But it's exactly why we have ABS.
Exactly. And I hope that if anything comes out of all this, besides the fact that it makes the game better, that we see some of these guys just don't belong umpiring in Major League Baseball.
It was terrible. I mean, some of them weren't even close on both. No. It wasn't like it was biased. It was one side or the other.
Right.
It was
just terrible.
It was mostly biased for the pitchers. It was a lot of hitters challenges, and they were right over and over and over again. Although the catchers got a couple also. And so, it's just such a great system because people talk about not wanting to lose the human element, but to me, this increases the human element. We get to see, when do you challenge, and are there challenges out of frustration that you shouldn't be making? And, which are the good umpires and how do they handle being challenged over and over again? And it's
some of them are still jackasses. Even though they have this system, they still try to be jackasses. And you just go, how many times do you have to be proven wrong before you stop with the attitude? Okay. You're not holier than thou. Just call them the way they're supposed to be called. Maybe you're not good enough to call them the way they're supposed to be called. I don't know. Anyway, talk for another day. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that over the summer. All right. Here are the draft picks on the left side of the screen, if you don't know them by heart already. And obviously the Saints ended up with 8 draft picks, made it just one small trade there. Well, not really a small trade in the purposes of where they moved in the draft, and really just trading a 5th round pick, getting a 7th round pick, and end up getting Wilson from Las Vegas as an edge rusher. But just overall, your thoughts of, I know we talked about this over the course of the past few weeks, and I thought the Saints were going to go offense and maybe offense, but even I was surprised at the fact they went that many. I mean, if you consider a tight end a skill position player, really 4 skill position players of the 8 picks, half of your picks on skill position players. I've got to say that even I was surprised at that.
Yeah, it just goes to show you what they thought about this roster, to a certain extent, that they knew they needed to upgrade there. At the same time, I think the Saints are fairly stubborn in doing what you said they shouldn't do, Jim, and that's we're going to take the guys at the top of our board. And that doesn't mean we're going to take a quarterback because we don't need one, but pretty much any other position, if we really like a guy, we'll take him even if we've got dudes there, and we'll figure out the rest later. And that's what they did. And you could see that particularly in rounds 2 and 3. They go with the big defensive tackle, they go with the tight end. Those were, we had a couple of live shows Friday night. They were needs. They weren't immediate needs. They're kind of more sneaky, maybe a year down the road needs. And so it's fine to work a year ahead in the draft. Now they're still going to have to figure out slot corner. I don't know if Lorenzo Styles can slide into a starting role. He's very athletic.
So. Yeah.
I mean, is he the guy you want there as a 5th round pick playing a key position? Probably not. They still need to address that at some form or fashion, but they filled some edge rushers with a couple of, veteran guys through trades and free agency. So I think that hole is probably filled for the time being. And this looks, I don't know if it's a great roster. It looks to be a fairly complete roster except for that one spot.
Yeah. And look, I'm going to say this. I was saying the past couple of weeks that I thought that their defensive backfield was probably a little bit better than most quote unquote experts and our colleagues maybe were kind of saying. At the same time, though, I mean, if you would have told me that none of the first 4 picks were going to be defensive backs, I would have told you, that's probably not likely. I still thought they were going to go get one, and again, in the top 4 picks, that they could go and that would have a chance to start. The Styles have a chance to start, of course. TJ Hall's probably a project player. Who knows? Although a lot of people like him and think he was a great player at Iowa. But I just think that if there was one thing that I say is I wish they would have probably gone cornerback at least in the first 4, taken one.
Yeah, I was surprised they didn't. I think, again, they're just going to be stubborn and say, if the player's at the top of our board, we're going to take him. We're going to increase the talent at the bottom of the roster. And then, and yeah, Adam makes a good point. The Saints are really good at finding gems in undrafted free agency. Rashid Shaheed being probably prime example number 1 of this.
Yep.
Taysom Hill was an undrafted free agent. Of course, the Packers originally signed him, and then the Saints were able to pick him up in training camp. But, you can find really good players in the UDF. Mason Tipton, another one, who's managed to stick around for a few years and be a little productive. So they're just going to go get their guys and then spend the summer kind of looking at the roster and saying, okay, we still need a little help at that spot. And that's when they go position specific there. But as far as grading the draft, I'm not, I heard you giving some grades. I just don't do that. I can't wrap my head around, well, you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers look like they got great value in the draft. They got Reuben Bain in round 1. They got Akeem, not Akeem, the kid from Miami, the cornerback.
They got Bain.
Scott.
Bucks got Bain.
Yeah, the Bucks got Bain, and then later in the draft they got Keontae Scott. And you go, boy, those are really, really.
Which is the guy that we thought that could, that's a guy that I was writing about that the Saints could end up targeting in day 2. I really thought that was a guy that they might be interested in.
But like, how do we know that these guys? We're just going off of all the stuff we read for a month before the draft, and it gets so locked into your brain that you think that that's reality, and sometimes it is. But sometimes it's not. And so on the flip side, when you say, "Oh, this is an A+ draft. They did everything they needed to do," well, we don't know.
I don't think you can give an A+ draft. Maybe the Jets
it's horrible. You really, to me, you shouldn't be giving anything. You shouldn't give an A or an F to any draft. You just don't know to that level of certainty. Well, I think it's a B or a C pretty much for everybody.
One thing I will say this, and again, and this is what I said earlier, and I'm going to give my grade later because it's for entertainment purposes, just like mock drafts. They are meaningless. Mock drafts are absolutely meaningless. Grades are absolutely meaningless, but we give them to have a little fun and really take it tongue in cheek. I mean, nobody's grade means jack squat until 3 years. I mean, honestly, we could go back to the Saints draft from 2023. In fact, that date in history, 2023, coming up in a little bit, but you can't even really give a full grade on that draft yet. I mean, because it's still kind of incomplete to some. If you look at it, you can if you want, but I mean, it's still, you still kind of have to go through it and figure it out. So there's things to figure out. Cornerback, the Saints, I thought Deshaun Jones from Alabama is an interesting undrafted free agent. I mean, maybe that's one of the guys who comes in here. He actually played a solid role at Alabama. He's a guy that maybe could come in and compete for a spot. If you're looking for undrafted free agents that could potentially find a role, to me, he was definitely one of them. You're looking at maybe one of the linemen, the offensive lineman might make a move. Alex Walschlager, by the way, he was a guy that I think he's from, I think, Central Illinois. Is that where he's from? You remember? I don't know if you remember when you were looking at him, but
I don't.
Okay, well, I think he started like, he played 50 some odd games in college, and I think he started like 50 of them. So, I mean, there's a guy that obviously if Central Michigan doesn't equal the same realm as a big name school, but I think he played a bunch of, actually Kentucky, he finished at Kentucky. But these guys that play all these games in college, who knows? You never know where your diamond in the rough's going to be.
No, you don't. And you really won't have any idea really until, I mean, I guess maybe mandatory minicamp. I know they'll have the rookie minicamp here, but they'll just be competing against each other and just kind of breaking a sweat. Maybe at minicamp, maybe at training camp, you'll start to hear some names pop. And even then, like, how often do we see one of these guys have a huge preseason game and then not even make the roster?
Right,
because
exactly.
we don't get to see the whole picture. So,
right.
What I want to know about this comment calling me a fun sponge.
I think that goes with someone that's Charles was talking about you being a Debbie Downer, and then David was piling on and saying you were a fun sponge.
What are you guys talking about? I'm just being realistic.
Some people don't like it when you're realistic, Zach. They don't like it.
Draft.
They don't like it when I'm realistic either.
It's like spring training in baseball. Everybody's happy with their draft. You're like, oh, look at these guys. Look at how good they could be. Come on, you don't know. I don't know. The Saints might not.
You think you know, but you don't know, and you never will.
If these teams knew, there would never, ever be a draft bust. So, look, I think they did well. I think they stuck to their guns. They got some good players, some good athletes. I will say one takeaway. Boy, I don't care that there's a new head coach and a new staff in the building from the last couple of years. They are still all about that relative athletic score. Did you see the RAS score of all these guys?
No, but I was looking at it as I went along. I was actually looking at those scores as they went along.
The Saints love their athletes, and they got a lot of athletes.
They really do. And again, that was something I was definitely looking at. I'm going to get back to the draft in just a second, but this is a good question because I wrote a story about this on SI yesterday. Linebacker Anthony Jennings coming over from the Patriots as signed as a free agent signing, again, the day after they trade their 5th-round pick for Tyree Wilson. And Sean wants to know, with the Saints' recent moves, do you see a space for Cam Jordyn? And I wrote, and I'm not, I know some people might think that I was writing this as clickbait, but it absolutely was not. I wrote this, and I know you guys wrote something about this. I know, I think Matt wrote the story about Cam talking about it at his charity function this week. But do you see a space for Cam Jordyn? Do you think this might be the end of Cam Jordyn with what the Saints did this weekend?
Yeah, Matt was the only one out there at Cam Jordyn's pickleball thing as far as media goes. And so Cam talked to him for a couple minutes. And so I won't, you guys will have to go click on the link to read it. But suffice it to say, Cam doesn't think the door is closed. But realistically, we have to look at Tyree Wilson and Anthony Jennings. And yeah, the spots are running out. Like you only carry probably 5 edge rushers on an active roster. And I think 4 of them now are pretty much set between, your starters, Granderson and Chase Young, and then these 2 guys they just brought in. So is there a spot for a 5th one? Could it be Cam Jordyn? It could be. And maybe he beats out one of those guys. He had more production than either one of them last year, clearly. So if they bring him back, he could jump in there, sure. But the spots are running out. And so I think this next week will tell us a lot. He'll either find another team who's willing to pay his price, or he'll kind of have to lower that price and see who's willing to do it, including the Saints.
Yeah, I don't think look, I think if he's going to give a discount, I think at this point, and I could be wrong, but again, I like to read through tea leaves. I don't think he's giving the Saints any kind of discount. And honestly, I don't think the Saints just don't seem like they want him back. Honestly, if they wanted him back, I think they would have worked through something and tried to figure something out. I just don't get that they want him back. And you're not going to get the Saints to answer that question. I would be shocked if they answer that question. I think David thinks he's going to the Chiefs. Everything I read, tea leaves, I think he's going to go to the Bears and reunite with Dennis Allen. We'll see. Scott Claymore says he will have to come down on salary. He got a sacks because of Young. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I just don't. At this point, I just don't see Cam Young coming back here. And honestly, it doesn't really matter to me where he goes as long as he doesn't go to Atlanta if he's not going to be here. Nick says, by the way, it's the first time that I've been on with someone and the other person has been accused of being a downer. And I'm not sure what this means, but Tracy says, each week Derry looks more like a Harry Potter character. Which one would that be?
Yeah, I want to know which one.
So go ahead, Tracy.
It's not Voldemort because you've got a nose. So
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm what's her name? Hermione?
Why would you be Hermione?
I don't know. Maybe she's got an attitude. She's the one with the most attitude.
Maybe. You're like one of the older professors. You're looking very professorial.
I look very professorial because I'm wearing a shirt that has
Defense of the Dark Arts teacher.
Good Lord, man. Is that where we're going with this?
Little, okay. The gray gives you some gravitas.
All right. Well, whatever. Moving on, before I know you got to go. So before you go, there's a couple questions.
I got a few minutes, Jim. I probably got until another 10 minutes or so.
All right. I want to ask you one of the questions I definitely wanted to ask you in my notes here is, okay, of these players, just your personal favorite or one that stuck out to you or one that I'm going to ask you which one stuck out to you, which one do you like the most, and maybe which one surprised you the most?
I'm intrigued by Oscar Delp. I think
So am I. That's not my favorite, but I'm very intrigued by that.
I don't know if it's my favorite either.
Show the poll question again, Gabe.
Favorite's a hard one, but Oscar Delp intrigues me because I think he was underused as a pass catcher at Georgia, and I wonder, if the Saints could open something up and use a bunch of 2 tight end sets. There you go. That's what it is. Grow that beard out and braid it a little bit.
All right, there you go, David.
I guess it's probably Lorenzo Styles, man. You look at some of his stats at the combine, like super, super athletic. Could he be?
Did he really run a 4.2 something at the combine?
4.27, I think.
That's insane. Who runs a 4.2 something?
He's got speed for days. So
that's crazy.
Something like I really like that pick.
I mean, he and Barry Brown maybe are both returning kicks. Who the hell knows?
Barry Brown, I'm actually a little bit lower on than some.
I am too. I didn't get that pick at all.
I think he could be good in the return game, but as a receiver,
yeah. But I mean, I thought that's what Styles was for. Honestly, I thought what they were drafting Styles, that he has potential, that maybe he could play defensive back or at least be depth there, and he was going to be your return guy. And then you go draft the Barry Brown. To me, that's the one that if I would pick one that I don't get at all, and I would scratch off the list, that would be the one. Again, it's a 6th-round pick. It's not that big of a deal. So, by the way, today's poll question, if you haven't voted yet and you still want to vote, the question is, other than Jordyn Tyson, who is your favorite New Orleans Saints pick? Type in 1 if it's Oscar Delp, 2 Barry Brown, 3 Bryce Lance, 4 other. And just type in the number if you want to vote. Nothing else but the number. But I would say my least favorite pick in the entire draft was probably Barry Brown.
I didn't quite get that one, and I know LSU fans are excited that the Saints actually drafted an LSU player, but that one was a weird fit, especially after like you said, they drafted a guy in Lorenzo Styles who also has some chops in the kick return game. How about Christian Miller? I mean, let's not overlook the importance of having – you talk about how much offense they drafted. Christian Miller could be a big part of this defense for years because
I thought that – but Christian Miller – and look, this guy could be, you're right about it. He has fantastic talent. I thought it was great 2nd-round value. However, I thought it was interesting that I'm not poo-pooing on the pick. I just thought it was interesting. The Saints thought they were going to go interior there instead of most media pundits thought they needed to go from the outside.
Yeah, they needed an edge rusher or a defensive back, and there was plenty available. And to me, you kind of look at that and you go, well, for the Saints to pass on Zion Young, who is still available and is their type of big body, long arm pass rusher, they could have drafted him. There was a couple of other edge rushers available. There was a couple of defensive backs. Keontae Scott he went all the way to the 4th round. But the fact that they liked Christian Miller better than all of those guys tells me that they think he's really going to be a player. And I think he could be the type of guy you're not going to hear his name a ton because he's not going to rack up sacks and stuff like that. But you've almost got to stick 2 guys on him because he's such a big, powerful body in the middle, and he's going to allow the guys around him to then make plays. I think he could be a big piece of this front 7 for years to come.
We will revisit the poll when we finish up here, when Gabe comes back on. But as of right now, again, you still have time to vote. Oscar Delp is leading the pack at 43%. Bryce Lance at 35%, which is my vote, by the way. That's my, other than Jordyn Tyson, that's my favorite pick in the whole draft. I think Bryce Lance, we haven't even got to him. But Barry Brown, 13%, and then other is 9%. You can take the poll down for now, Gabe. If you want to vote, you still can. You know how to do it by now. You still got about 20 minutes to vote. But I think Bryce Lance is just raw talent. Do I think he's ready to come in and play right away? No, Zach. But I think that he is a guy that, with the right coaching, and I think this team obviously has the right coaching, I think he's a guy that I don't think he's a practice squad guy. I think you'll see him in games. But I think I'm going to be watching him during the mini camps and during training camp to see if this guy can get in the NFL and use that speed. There's some things he needs to work on, but I think he can be a great player.
Man, he's the guy. Did you see this is an old tweet from like a month ago, but the Relative Athletic Score, the RAS system, has its own Twitter account. And they said, I just found the tweet, he scored a 994 RAS, out of 10. That ranked 23rd out of 3,926 receivers they ranked between 1987 and 2026. So, like, Out of 40 years, he's 23rd.
That's
ever.
insane.
And
that's insane.
Like, he's got speed, he's got agility, quickness, hands, all that stuff.
He's the definition of raw talent.
Yes, played at a lower level, obviously. Although North Dakota State is going up to FBS this year, and I think they're going to be competitive immediately. It's that they're the premier FCS program, so you can't say it was really that much of a lower level.
What are they going in the Mountain West or something?
Yeah, all the mountains in North Dakota. Like, he could be It's a little bit of a lottery ticket, right? And that's what you get in the fifth round or fourth round, but late fourth round. But I mean, yeah, he's exciting, and like, he's the type of guy where if he pops and he becomes like the next late round steal, it's not the same type of player as Puka Nacua, but that type of guy where everybody's going to go, God, how did we miss him?
Yeah,
and the Saints have a great player.
Yeah, no, I agree. And look, and again, if you miss on a late fourth round guy, kind of almost, who cares? I mean, it's you're not really risking all that much in the grand scheme of things. So I love the pick. I think it's a great pick. Scott, I want to go back to your comment, loading on wide receiver. Maybe they're leaning on not paying Olave. I think it's just the opposite. I think I think they're trying to surround Olave with as much help as possible. I don't think. I think I would be shocked, and I mean, I'd almost go as far to say floored if Olave doesn't get a long-term deal. That's just my opinion.
He will. I think there's going to be some injury clauses and opt-outs, because I do think the Saints are relatively worried about the concussions with him. And like, the problem with concussions, of course, is that you're not just talking about, hey, he's going to miss some games. If he has another serious concussion, that could be it.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And so you have to keep that, like, of course, I hope he's healthy and that this doesn't happen. But if you're being, smart about it, you're thinking ahead as the Saints, you have to keep that in mind, that it's at least a possibility. And so, yeah, you need depth there. You need other guys there. I think that played into the Jordyn Tyson pick of, let's go get a guy who, if the worst happens, we maybe have another number one in our building.
Yeah. M. Schneller, welcome to the show. It's the first time I've seen your name. If it's your first time here, thank you so much. And whoever's here for the first time, we thank you for becoming part of the Dat family. Hope you subscribe to us on YouTube. Adam Varner wants to know, what is the prediction for the starting 3 wide receivers? It's a little early for that. Who helps Olave this season? But
it's Tyson and Vele for me. I don't think there's any question.
Yeah, by the way, you see the code that Gabe put up there. You can just scan that code with your phone. It takes you right to our YouTube page where you can click subscribe. He'll leave that up there for a second. But, I mean, clearly Tyson and Olave, your first 2 starters. Your wide receiver 3, I still think it's probably Vele, but you can go through and figure it out. I think Delp probably going to find his way into the starting lineup. You lost a lot of tight end. You need help there. I thought that, again, going back to the Delp pick, he's one of the intriguing picks. He's not.
Do you think Delp starts over Juwan Johnson?
No, I think they're going to have 2 tight end sets though.
As like a base offense.
Yeah. I think it's part. I mean, I think they do that quite often. I mean, I don't know what the percentages they did that last year, but
I mean, that would mean beating out Noah Fant as well. So we'll see. I think it's possible. Yeah.
So anyway, I really like the Dell pick. I do. I like the Lance pick again for the future. We'll see what some of the other guys do. And then also, what are your thoughts, or do you have any thoughts at all? CJ Dowson, who they undrafted free agent guy who was really good at West Virginia in his sophomore and junior seasons, and he racked up, I think, combined over 1,500 yards rushing in those 2 seasons. Then goes to Ohio State and kind of became the short yardage guy. Does he have a chance to come in here, or is he just strictly a practice squad guy?
I'd be surprised. I mean, I guess at running back, you never know when somebody kind of pops, but it feels like they have enough bodies there now, especially if Kamara is indeed going to stick around. What's his path to the I mean, never say never, because a year ago we would have never guessed Audric Estime was having 100-yard games for the Saints, but it feels like they have enough bodies in that room to where he's just a camp body, but we'll see.
Lastly, before we let you go, I'm just going to throw this up there, the odds chart. Now, we saw this morning, we talked about how the Saints win total, still at 7.5 on DraftKings, but it has shifted more towards the over. The draft definitely did some good for the Saints in the odds makers' eyes, and it's also shifted the odds to win the division just a little bit. The Saints were for a while, they were plus 300. They had got to plus 285, I think, last week, and now, Zach, this morning, this is the lowest number that I've seen for the Saints so far. Bucks still the favorite, but not a huge favorite at plus 165 to win the NFC South. Saints now plus 255, kind of pulling away a little bit from the Panthers, who are plus 310. Falcons way down there at plus 450. I think that's actually good value. I know people who hate the Falcons, they don't want to hear me say that, but Falcons are plus 450. I really think that's good value. But what do you think about these odds? Again, shifting a little bit because of the draft. They're about where you would put them.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the right order. Like, you can argue Saints versus Panthers, who should be the second favorite, but I think it's a wide open division. Like, is there another division that has a longer favorite than plus 165? There probably is, but I
actually have it up.
Be AFC North, maybe you have
AFC
pretty wide open.
AFC North, Ravens are minus 115.
Okay, so never mind.
AFC East, Bills are minus 130. AFC South, Texans at plus 130. Here you go. AFC West is longer odds in the South. The Chiefs are plus 170.
Okay. The uncertainty with Mahomes, it makes sense.
NFC East, the Eagles are plus 120. And here's another one that's longer than the South. The NFC North, the Lions are plus 180. Packers right behind them at plus 190. And in the West, the Los Angeles Rams are plus 140, and the Seahawks are plus 165.
Yeah. I guess it's not that much different, but I do think it's wide open. The Bucs are the rightful favorite. Look, the way they played the first half of last season, they looked like they were a top maybe 6 team in the NFL, and then they started to get hit hard by injuries, and they really fell off. And that, starting with Baker Mayfield, if they could stay healthy and return to that level of play, I don't think the Saints are probably ready to challenge for like a team that could reach that level. The Panthers, to me, are going to slip some. Falcons, we just don't know. We still don't know what Michael Penix is. And if you don't have the quarterback, what do you really have? So I think this is probably the right order, but I wouldn't put it past any. I mean, I wouldn't just cross off any of these.
You can't be surprised if any of those. It's not like a lot of the other. You asked me who's you'd be shocked if the Giants won the NFC East, right? I mean, I think most of us would be shocked. I don't. If the Cardinals won the NFC West, there needs to be an investigation. So I mean, that's not going to happen. But so. I don't think you'd be shocked if any of these 4 teams won the South.
No, not at all.
It's going to be a fun year. Zach Ewing, it's going to be a fun going. I look, as we do show number 500, I told you this in the live show. There would be no show 500. There would be no show 498. There probably wouldn't even have been a show 10 if it had not been for you saying, yeah, go for it. Let's try this Dattitude thing that you want to do. And I never thought it would go more than 40 or 50 episodes. And here we are. Friday will be episode number 500. I won't see you again probably till next week, but I thank you so much for helping get us kick-started and all that you've contributed to the show along the way. Had a really fun time Thursday night, and your contributions to this show can't go without notice.
Well, salute to you for making it happen, and congrats on 500, man. I'm happy to be a part of it.
All right, we'll see you next week at some point.
All right, sounds good.
Zach Ewing, everybody. Again, couldn't have done it without him. He's the one that when I presented him with the idea 5 years ago, said, yeah, go ahead, let's do it. And then it ended up becoming part of my duties. And here we are 5 years later, and I'm independent, and we're still doing the show. Going back to some of the comments that I missed while Zach was on, and Gabe's going to come on in just a minute, but Randall says he wouldn't give Olave a penny more than $25 million a year. I can tell you right now, I guarantee the Saints don't feel the same way. The Saints will, I would be willing to bet the floor on Olave's contract extension is going to be $28 million a year. That is the floor. It's probably going to be closer to 30. And as we go along, and do I agree with it? I don't know that I necessarily agree with a wide receiver, but that's what the salaries are. And if you want a number 1 wide receiver, I'm not debating this today, because if you don't think Olave is a number 1 receiver, and if you don't think he's a top 12 receiver, you're wrong. You're flat out wrong. I'm not going to debate this today. We can debate this over the summer, but you're flat out wrong. The stats tell you you're wrong. Everything you see the last half of the season when he played with Shuck, obviously a different receiver when he was with Shuck. If you don't agree with me, I don't care, because you're wrong. Period. What else? UBN wants to know where the Niners. The Niners are plus 260 to win the division, which is the same as the Saints, basically. Would you rather bet on the Niners to win the West or the Saints to win the South? That's a good question. That's a tough one, actually. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out as we go forward. All right. Couple more comments as we get closer. Ryan O'Shea, look, you know what? You know what doesn't happen? The longer you wait to get this done, the more the contract's going up. It just is. It's closer to 30 and it's going up. The longer you wait, the more it's going to go up. That's why they need to get this done. You cannot wait, because wide receiver contracts, as silly and stupid as because they're stupid. I mean, wide receiver contracts are just stupid. It's absurd. My opinion. Hakeem said that Delp said his aunt and uncle are from Louisiana, although he played his football in enemy territory where Hakeem is in Georgia. Who do I think, Sean Watson, who I think won't make it among the wide receivers, I'm assuming you're talking about? That's a good question. I think that there's almost no chance that Trey Palmer and Polk make it. One of them is going to go. And honestly, does this mean the end of the road for Bub Means? Might be. Bub Means had some injuries. And so when you look at the collection of Means, Polk, and Palmer, I think that only one of them make it. And that's a good thing, because, and I'm sorry I keep drinking, I got a little tickle in my throat. You suddenly, to me, you still don't have great depth at receiver, because you're not top heavy. You're kind of bottom heavy when you're talking about the receivers that are on this team. But if you're going to keep 6 of them, okay, you know who 3 of them are, right? Or 4 of them are. You know that 4 of them are going to be Olave. You're going to keep, obviously, Tyson, obviously, Vele. And I think you got to keep Lance on the active roster, because I don't think you can afford to expose him to the practice squad. So that's 4 right there you're going to keep. Who's going to be the other 2? Maybe, I mean, I would think you're going to keep 6. David Nola says a parlay of Saints and Niners on FanDuel is plus 1396. Okay. Maybe. Randall says it's not personal. He just doesn't want to see the Saints stuck with a massive contract on an undersized wide receiver with concussion issues. I'm woosahing right now, if you're wondering. We didn't have I know we had dead air, and you were wondering if we lost contact with planet Earth. Some of you in the pod on the audio only version who can't see my face. That was me woosahing. I'm still doing it. I mean, I know I'm in the minority when it comes to my thoughts on Chris Olave, and all it takes is one drop, and September the 6th or 5th or whatever the hell the opening. I don't know whatever opening day is. The first time he drops the ball, I'm gonna have to hear it all over again. I dropped the pass again. Shut up. Shut the hell up. Go look at his stats from last year. More specifically, go look at his stats when he played with Tyler Shuck and see what they were. Evan says it's great. It is great to have Randall back. I mean, look, I got to be honest. You got trolls who are just dumbasses and who are just trolling to be trolls. Randall, I don't have a problem with a guy like Randall who actually believes the stuff that he's saying, and he's not doing it to be a troll. So I have no problem with that, who's pressing my buttons. What I have a problem with is when people just put stupid shit on there just to be a dumbass, just to have a possibility of winning dumbass of the week. This might be the comment of the day, because this is true. Carden damn near killed Olave. I mean, that's true. David Nola says just have to protect the cap and Olave's extension with the concussion issues. Look, I agree with that. I think that's true. You have to find a way to do that. Is he going to be willing to accept that? I have no idea. Maybe, maybe not. But, I mean, that's something you probably need to do. That being said, look, it's not the same Saints team that we've been talking about for the last 3 or 4 years. The cap situation, again, I'm not saying you go, oh, you can kill the cap. No, I'm not saying that. However, what I am saying is you have a little bit more freedom there. You have a little bit more you're able to go a little bit further. If you miss on a cap situation, it's not going to kill you like it killed you in the past. Just think about it. Look, I know y'all say a lot of mean things about Carr, but just think if Carr doesn't give some of that money back, this team's still kind of screwed. Just saying. Gabe, I'm going to tell everybody more about Evangeline Securities. While we do that, maybe we can put up one of our little codes that they can click on. There you go. This is the On SI code. If you want to come find me on SI, all my writings from this past weekend, I think I wrote 198 stories. No, it's a little bit more than I really wrote. But Gabe helped me out Friday at a game Friday night, so he kind of did my day two stuff and helped me out with the live blog. But we go in there. If you want to go in, there's lots of things you can look at right now. You can go back and look at the 3 days as they happen in reverse chronological order. And to me, if I were just a fan and I were going back, I would actually be interested and I would go back and read through that. Kind of go back and start from Thursday and kind of work your way up and see how the night evolved, how Friday evolved, and then how Saturday evolved. Got it all in there. And I got some great, interspersed some tweets in there. And then I talk about yesterday, I wrote a little blog about a little post. I hate calling them blogs. A little post about the undrafted free agents and also the draft grades. You could spend 10 minutes in the draft grades, by the way, from all the media experts and quotes from all they had to say on each player, an overall grade, and then what they had to say as well. So you might want to take a look at that. That's on SI. And if you scan that code or, you can go find, you can either scan that code with your phone or you can just go search Saints on SI and it will come up right away and you can see, take you to our homepage and everything you can find there. Meanwhile, we told you earlier, we will let you know more. Thank you, Gabe. We told you earlier, we would let you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family run or privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it? Well, after their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanian Nick Braden and the folks at Evangeline, they will begin an extensive auction process from among established private equity funds from, I don't know, around around the whole wide world. They'll maximize the return for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities, they're the top producer on their platform. Very few companies like them in this area, and 0.0 with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed. They're ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick Braden about what's really important. It ain't about what Randall thinks is a good price to pay Chris Olave. You know what's really important? It's for your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. Kenny Chesson, thank you so much. You read through them yesterday. Interesting reads. And look, seriously, I'm not just spotting this out. I thought it really was, I put together, and I will put some more things together. But what I'm trying to do there is have a little bit longer post and things that people are interested in, might kind of diving in, not just telling you the news of, one of the things we had yesterday, one of the posts we had yesterday, and again, this wasn't clickbait. The headline says Saints bringing in Anthony Jennings, Tyree Wilson are strong signs that Cam Jordan's moving on. I dive into it. I tell you why that I think what I think. And that's one of the things I love about being with SI is it's not just news post. You're getting a news post from someone who is, I'm giving you my opinion inside of that news post. Now, look, sometimes I'm going to give you the straight news when I think it's warranted that you get straight news. But we talk about reading through tea leaves. I think reading through tea leaves are important. Again, I'm not always right, but I think what makes common sense, that's where we go with a lot of this stuff. And you can check me out, again, on SI, New Orleans Saints on SI. David Nola says, Saints have $42 million in cap space in 2027 with no moves. $236 million in cap space in 2028. That's because some of these contracts are expiring. So we'll go there. All right. It is time to move on. Who knows what Gabe is going to want to talk about, but let's find out. And we're about to move on to Dat Date. And a reminder that coming up on Wednesday's show, again, that's why you want to click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live. But coming up on Wednesday's show, Jeff Duncan hasn't been on in a while. I don't remember the last time he's been on, but we're going to talk about what does Jeff Duncan think about these draft moves. Wanted to get him on during show 500 a week. Jeff Duncan has been on the show almost as much as, I would have to guess he probably is the most attended guest I guess I don't know what way to say it, but that was back in the day. He used to come on every Friday with me. It's been a little while, but he'll be on Wednesday. Again, looking forward to his thoughts about how the Saints did in the draft, and also his thoughts on the Kentucky Derby. Obviously, Duncan is a Kentuckian who is now a New Orleanian, and it has been for 2.5 decades. But his roots are still in Kentucky, and he will tell you his thoughts on the Derby coming up this week. What is on your mind this morning, Gabe Henderson, or this afternoon?
Well, Jim, I would like to talk about Zach Wilson and Spencer Rattler. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, boy. I was about
I will say just a quick note on Olave, though.
I was taking myself off the screen on that one.
I know. I saw that. Just a quick note on Olave. Just to end all of the discourse here. The Saints are going to sign Olave. They have to sign Olave. But I think people see that $30 million a year figure and get scared.
He agrees that wide receivers 3 to 5 grow in trees. Receivers 1, wide receiver 1, wide receivers 2 do not. I agree with that 100%.
I 100% agree with that. But you see the $30 million and you get scared, especially because of the concussion concerns. But at the same time, these NFL organizations aren't just handing them $30 million a year. They are putting things in their contract to protect not only themselves, but also the player. So everyone is doing what's best. And what is best is signing Chris Olave to a lucrative extension. And that is what they will do.
Yeah, I agree. All right, before we get to Dat Date, I know you also wanted to talk about the Garrett Nussmeier situation, and we kind of didn't touch on it enough. Look, I think, our opinions on Garrett Nussmeier as a potential NFL player are probably a little bit different. Not probably, they are definitely different. However, I think we both agree that Garrett Nussmeier going in the 7th round is a little crazy. I think dropped a little bit further. But look, when you're talking about injury concerns, and the difference, Tyson went out and Jordyn Tyson had his own pro day, and everybody, anyone who was interested in Jordyn Tyson got to put their eyes on him. Maybe there weren't enough opportunities to put eyes on Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's a mix of the injury concerns, and then the tape just isn't great. The thing with Garrett Nussmeier, and the reason that a lot of LSU fans love the idea of Garrett Nussmeier, is because they were just coming off 2 Heisman-winning quarterbacks. You hand the keys of this explosive offense to this quarterback with a huge arm. And that's the thing. That's the real appeal about Garrett Nussmeier is he's got all the intangibles. He's a stocky dude. He can run when he's healthy.
Right.
And he's got a huge arm. But the decision-making maybe isn't there. And that's why I think it was so important for him to go to a place like, yes, you are correct. You and I both agree he is not a 7th-round pick. I thought he was an early day 3 guy. I was surprised that he slid as far as he did.
Scott this is a great comment that I also want you to talk about, because I think this is part of it. I'm not going to blame it all on Brian Kelly, but Scott says Kelly should be tarred and feathered for what he did to Nussmeier. I mean, that's a little strong. It wasn't just, what's he supposed to do? He was trying to, he thought that Nussmeier was his only chance to win. So maybe he probably shouldn't have been out there playing. Maybe he should have taken some time off.
Necessarily wrong either.
I mean,
the quarterback room was just
it was bad, which is Brian Kelly's fault, by the way.
100%. Sometimes you just get it wrong, like Jay Johnson said last week. But here's the thing with Garrett Nussmeier: he needs a situation where he can go and he can learn. He really needs to sharpen his football mind. And I don't think there's a better place for him. I did not think Kansas City would be in the market for a quarterback.
Yeah.
Which is why on our live draft show last week, we were going through potential destinations for Nussmeier. And, we talked about Pittsburgh and LA ad nauseum. But, Kansas City's a great landing spot for him.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
It really is. He gets to sit behind.
It's kind of like Chase Daniel.
Andy Reid.
And I thought it was interesting that Chase Daniel actually spoke out about this. He goes, don't be upset if you were a 7th-round quarterback pick or an undrafted free agent, because Chase Daniel was an undrafted free agent. It got him, I think, a dozen years in the NFL, got him a Super Bowl ring. He got to play in New Orleans, and he got to play in Kansas City. So sometimes being the 7th-round quarterback and being a backup quarterback your whole life, it isn't the worst thing in the world, because it could lead to other things even after you're done. It also means you could be in the NFL for a dozen years. Who the hell knows?
David, I don't know where you heard that, but as someone who has a relatively negative view on Garrett Nussmeier, that's just not true.
That I would, yeah, that's definitely.
I've never heard that.
100% not true. That's
And
100%. Especially being a
know
coach's
people
kid.
within the LSU football program who have said nothing but great things about him and that's the big thing for me is when he was sliding into the 7th round. I was just thinking to myself, I was kind of disheartened for him because while I don't think he's going to be some stud in the NFL, this is a guy who over the last few years
definitely busts his ass.
He busts his ass, and he's been committed to the LSU football program. And that's all you can really ask from a player. From a personality standpoint, I have nothing bad to say about Garrett Nussmeier. So that's
Ryan wants to know.
He fell that far.
Ryan, we don't know the answer of whether Mahomes is going to be ready for training camp. I think I would lean to no. I actually
saw someone spoke about it the other day. They said of all the quarterbacks in this draft class, Garrett Nussmeier might have the best chance to actually start the season.
That would be interesting.
If Patrick Mahomes wasn't ready, I think it would be Justin Fields, but you just never know. But
and look,
Fernando Mendoza's not going to start.
And Andy Reid, look, Andy Reid's not going to have any qualms whatsoever if he thinks Garrett Nussmeier is the better quarterback. He's not going to have any problem putting Garrett Nussmeier out there.
No, he isn't. And I'm excited for him. It was sad to see him slide to the 7th, but
if you're going to slide to the 7th, go somewhere like that.
I think this is a much better. This is the dream scenario if you're Garrett Nussmeier. Maybe not, like I said, being drafted that late, but going to a situation where you can learn behind the best quarterback in the NFL and the brightest offensive mind in the league.
Anything else before we move on to that date? Because I really like today's Dat Date, by the way.
No, nothing that I can.
All right, let's.
Other than, I mean, I kind of alluded to this earlier. I think draft grades from fans are dumb.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna yuck people's yum.
By the way, I never did give my draft grade. I'll tell you what. Before we go off the air, stick around. I will give you my draft grade. Just because
on the edge of my seat.
I don't really give a damn. I don't even care what my own damn grade is. It's seriously, it's entertainment purposes.
I get it's entertainment purposes, but I mean, it means absolutely nothing. Like everyone is going to like their own team's draft for the most part. But
isn't absolutely nothing sort of an oxymoron? You're saying absolutely and nothing together.
No,
it's kind of weird.
It is the
0.0.
Yeah, I was going to say it is 0.0.
The true 0.0.
Okay. Of 0.0. However, but so I will say, I mean, it's just a bunch of people who haven't watched half these.
All right, what's your Houston Texans draft grade?
I don't have one, and I will not ever give one. I haven't looked at any. All I know is I like that they picked Caden McDonald in the 2nd round because he's a great defensive taccle.
And Gabe likes McDonald's too. So I'm just saying.
I'm not a big McDonald's guy.
Oh, that's right, because you're not a huge. You don't. Oh, you do eat a lot. You eat cooking a steak the other night, so I don't know. Yeah, you don't like McDonald's. So what are you? You had to get fat. What's your? Not that anyone cares, and we're really going off topic today. But what is your fast food of choice? If you had to go get fast food,
the nearest fast food to me is Cane's and Whataburger. So probably those.
Okay, we don't have
Jersey Mike's if that counts as fast food.
Oh yeah, Jersey Mike's awesome. Free plug on the Dattitude podcast. All right, moving on as we get to our wrap up the show. I'm told you we're going to enjoy this Dat Date in history. If you're new here and you don't know what it is, we find some of the important things and we try to have a local twist in there. Dat Date in history. And I always like to start it off with some Saints history, if possible. And in this case, it is absolutely possible. We are starting off with Saints history. When I'm done with Saints history, I will ask Gabe some questions. Today's questions are super easy, by the way. And we'll ask them. We'll see how many he can get correct trivia style.
Can I just say, whenever you say that they're super easy, it makes me nervous to get
two of them are super duper easy. One of them is.
If you tell me, you tell me like I don't think you'll get this, I'm like, all right, I'm playing with house money here.
All right, two of them you better get. One of them you may or may not. The other one I think you're going to get, and there's no doubt in my mind. UBN will definitely get it because I'm going to have a hint built into the question. All right, anyway, in Saints history on this date 44 years ago today. Saints also went wide receiver with their first pick. We hope this wide receiver works out a little better because with the 13th pick of the 1982 NFL draft, the Saints took Lindsey Scott from Georgia. He only played for 4 seasons, all in New Orleans. Listen to this, Gabe. In 4 seasons, the 13th pick of the 1982 draft, caught in his career 69 passes for 864 yards and one, count them, 1 touchdown. How are you a first-round pick and you only catch 1 touchdown pass? It's pretty bad. Anyway, also in the state, 3 years ago today, the Saints took a guy, I still can't pronounce his name correctly, but I'm going to do it anyway. With the 29th overall selection from Clemson, the Saints selected, you can call him a linebacker, you can call him a defensive tackle, who knows, maybe you can call him an edge rusher this year. I don't know what the hell he is right now, but they took Brian Bresee, I'm told.
I wish Zach were still here.
I'll put the E's in parentheses so I wouldn't screw it. Brian,
So
I like to call him Brian Bresee. He hates when it's Brian Bresee.
You got it right.
Whatever. I think I actually got it right this time. Y'all know what I mean. Anyway, all right. Why is Whataburger yuck?
Fantastic.
What are you talking about? I wish we had one here. No, come on, Charles, man. Great.
I will say I didn't want to interrupt your Dat Date analysis, but Kenny got a chuckle out of me with this.
With what?
Dumb
it's dumb. His dumb Saints draft grade B+. All right. I'm going to give mine when Gabe goes off before we go off. So you'll definitely want to stick around for that. I can't go anywhere until Jim Derry gives his draft grade. Anyway. All right. You ready?
Yep.
On that date, on April 15th, we celebrate Jackie Robinson Day for obvious reasons in Major League Baseball. On April 27th, bet you didn't even know this was a thing. April 27th in Major League Baseball is this Hall of Famers Day. It was because way back in 1947 on this date, the Yankees honored him as he went through his battle with cancer. He would die 16 months later on August 16th, 1948, at the young age of 53. Who is this Hall of Famer?
My initial thought before you said cancer was Lou Gehrig.
It is not Lou Gehrig.
No, I know, because Lou Gehrig died of Lou Gehrig's disease. I don't know.
The answer is
Era? I don't know. I don't know which Yankees legend.
That's one of the ones I thought you were going to get right. So
no.
I don't know. Anyway, the answer is, does anybody in the audience know before I move on? Come on. David Nola knows it. The answer is the Babe.
I did not
Babe
know
Ruth.
the answer, honestly.
Babe. Today is Babe Ruth Day. He was not the luckiest man on the face of the earth. I'm just saying. All right. I don't know if you're going to get this one or not. So here you're going to get the last one. I have no idea if you're going to get this. No, it's right. There it is. No, I'm just getting stupid. I know. On this date, UBN's definitely going to get this if he's still watching. A guy who was the heavyweight champion of the world from 1952 to 1956, retired 70 years ago today with a 49-0 record, 43 KOs. And I don't know how old he was, but he did whip Joe Lewis's ass.
No.
Come on, man. That hand. Come on. Somebody out there's got to get that one.
No, it's not me.
Somebody out there? Anybody?
It's not Floyd Mayweather, who also retired.
Bueller?
He was.
It's not Ken Norton in the 50s. Come on, man.
I don't know about 70s. Modern boxing. I don't know. I don't know why you thought I would potentially know.
He was undefeated. Who was undefeated out there? There it is. Ding, 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 ding. I don't know how old Rocky Marciano was. That comes from Coming to America, one of the greatest movies ever. But he did whip Joe Lewis's ass. Shane got it right. Randall got it right. A-Town got it right. I knew what I was talking about. All right, you better get
my life. So
come on, Rocky Marciano. You never heard of? What is wrong with you?
No, I don't like boxing.
You don't have to like boxing and at least heard of Rocky Marciano. Come on, man. I feel older and every time we do this segment, I feel older and freaking older. And I wanted to use a different word other than freaking, but I'm not going to do it. And Dat Date, for crying out loud. All right, you better get this one right. You bet. The pressure.
Okay.
You better get this one right.
Okay.
On this date, on Dat Date in 1983, this pitcher became the all-time strikeout king with 3,509 in his career, passing Walter Johnson. Incredibly, he would pitch 10 more seasons and finish with 5,714 strikeouts. And he lives in Gabe's home state of Texas.
It's the beef guy, right?
Where's the beef? No, not that beef. I know he does a beef commercial.
No,
Who is it?
No, he's got his own. It's Nolan Ryan.
I mean, I was going to be really pissed if you didn't get that one.
No,
right.
of course I know. I'm better at baseball history than, well, I say that as I did not know Babe Ruth died of cancer, but I'm better at baseball history than.
And JP must be way behind, by the way. So Zach talking about Chuck still needing to prove he could stay healthy is out of the box.
How I agree with
you. Must be way behind. So when you get to this point, JP, I'm going to say this. I don't think that's out of the box. I mean, it's like we've been saying. He's only played 10 NFL games. I mean, 9, 10 games, whatever it is. That's not out of the box to say that he still needs to prove he could stay. He absolutely needs to prove.
That's like saying Chris Olave played the year last year, so all of his injury concerns have gone away. Like,
all right, Saints we like to finish it up with birthdays. Saints birthdays today. There's only one of real note. Excuse me. He was not a first round pick, but he was a supplemental pick of the first round. So I don't know if that counts or not. I don't count it as a first round pick. But the not so great, I usually say the great, not so great. He was okay. Dave Wilson, 67 years old. Dave Wilson is 67 years old. He was Bum Phillips quarterback. He quarterbacked some for Jim Mora when he first came in. Dave Wilson saw a lot of stuff as a Saint, and he is 67. All right. Other birthdays of note. Obviously, this guy isn't alive because he would have been 130 years old today. But Rogers Hornsby in the range. No, just Rogers Hornsby. You heard of that name before, right? Mm-hmm. He would have been 130 years old. He died in 1963. Tell me if you've heard this name before. I'm probably going to be upset if you hadn't heard this name. He would have been 96 today. Passed away in 2018. The great Chuck Knox, who coached the Rams, Bills, and Seahawks. Would have been 90s. Damn, I'm old. NBA great George Gervin is 74 today. He is very much alive. And I know you know this name. MLB World Series MVP Corey Seager is 32 years old.
Fortunately, I am familiar with the Seagers.
Yep. Texas guys who both played for the Rangers at some point, right? Didn't they both play?
No, his brother was I believe, a career-long Mariner.
Oh, okay. All right. How about Keenan Allen? He is 34 years old today, which is 92 in wide receiver dog years.
He's only 34.
I know. It seems like he's been playing forever.
It seems no. I if you would have asked me, I probably would have told you 36 or 37 today.
It's amazing how often, by the way, before we go off the air here, how often my son calls me when I'm doing a live show. It just goes to show you he has no idea what I do for a living. He asked me the other day if I forget what he asked me if I'd seen that I was writing a story about. I'm like, you do realize I cover the Saints for 11, right? He has no idea what I do.
One day you got to answer and you got to put him on the spot with like a trivia question or get his thoughts about the Saints just to get the stupid takes that you talk about. Oh,
I mean, I try not to mess with them too much, but it is what it is. All right. And then lastly here, Reginald says, Who Dat Saints did a good job in drafting free agents. Looking good, Who Dat family. We are looking good. And it has been quite a run for us, Gabe. And as we go, show number 500 on Friday, I'm excited about it. Wednesday, again, show 499 will be Jeff Duncan, going back to our roots. And then on Friday, Stan Verrett. And I am trying either Wednesday or Friday. And let me go find this cat's name. International, as I do this on live TV.
While you do that, I will say that watching Stan Verrett on
John Silva
was a pivotal part of my childhood. So
watching Stan Verrett was a pivotal. Okay, well, he is absolutely. A New Orleanian through and through. John Silva, who I believe is he's host of the French Quarter podcast. He was the Saints International Fan of the Year, and he represented the Saints at the draft. We've already had one a couple of years ago, we had someone who, in fact, in 2022, when Zach and I went to Vegas, we had the Saints Fan of the Year who announced, I forget which pick it was, but he came on. And so we're trying to get that for later in the week. He's trying to work it out because when he would come on the air about noon or 12:10, it would actually be 9:10 over there. And he says he's putting his kids to bed. He's got to find out figure out if he can do it or not. But he wants to come on. We're trying to, if it's not this week, it'll be next week. We will get him on the show.
It's a 9-hour time difference.
Yeah. So he will be on the show at some point in the next week and a half or whatever. But trying to do it in week 500 week. It is going to be a fun week for us here and a momentous one. Gabe, I will see you on Wednesday on show 499.
Sounds good. See you then.
All righty. I told you I would give you my grade, by the way, as I try to go back up here and change the slide. There we go. I knew I could do it eventually. My grade for this draft as we go off the air today is, not that it matters. Again, I'm with Gabe that they're meaningless. I don't know about if I would say 0.0 meaningless because they're entertainment. Okay. They're entertaining. So I wouldn't give them a 0.0, but I'd give them like a 3.0. They don't mean anything, but they are fun to read at some point. Some of the draft grades, again, I said this morning, and I wrote about them on SI. You can go, again, check it out. Just look for Saints on SI, Google it. Some of the grades, Sports Illustrated gave them a B. Said New Orleans made the wise decision not to pass on Tyson, see? Even though the team had bigger needs along the defensive front, blah, blah, blah. CBS Sports gave them a B+. Says the discourse around Jordyn Tyson didn't stop the Saints from making him a top 10 pick. Also said Bryce Lance and Barry Brown joined the class on day 3, further emphasizing the Saints' commitment to Shuck and giving him all the tools he needs to be successful. NFL.com gave him a B+. Quote, New Orleans found a new receiving partner for Chris Olave. Tyson looked like a top 10 pick as a downfield playmaker at times in college, but he struggled to stay on the field because of injuries. Saints selected Kristen Miller's superior athleticism over Lee Hunter, who went number 49 to Carolina to bolster the defensive line. Then picked Delp, another former Georgia player who showed promise at times with the Bulldogs, but stood out more for his excellent pro day than his college production. And then ESPN gave him a B. Teams wondered about Tyson's durability in the pre-draft process. He missed a third of his college games. That's kind of misleading. He missed a third of his college games because he missed the entire 2023 season, and he missed the last part of the 22. So a lot of those games that he missed, and this is another thing that people don't mention, a lot of the games that he missed were in 2022 and all of 2023 again. He missed 2024, the last 2 games of 2024 because they had the collarbone, and then he has hammy, which is what give most people pause or cause for concern, whatever way you want to put it. That's the biggest concern. I mean, again, it's worth the risk. Let's see what else we got here. That's it. There's a lot on there. Anyway, you can check that out on SI. My grade is an A-. There were a couple picks in there that I didn't necessarily agree with, but didn't hate. Kristen Miller pick, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. I wish the Saints were to go on if they're going to go defense there, which is fine. Go defense. I mean, I have no problem. You went and got the guy that I wanted you to get in the first round. I give that an A. I give Bryce Lance an A+, by the way. Getting a guy like Bryce Lance with, the 36th pick of the 4th round, absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Love it. By the way, we got a comment on X. That doesn't happen all that often, so I'm going to show it. Lucas Hill. Glad you're here, Lucas. This was a smart draft by the Saints. Gave them a B. Kristen Miller could be a guy that alternates between playing a 3 and a 5. Yeah, for sure. Love his film. Quick twitch guy that can turn into. I said, look, I don't have a problem with Kristen Miller himself. I think he's going to be a really good player for this team. And look, the Saints, obviously, their draft strategy was surround Shuck, stop the run. That's what they went into this draft looking to do. And even when you talk about picking an Anthony Jennings, who can be a pass rusher, but he's also, one of his strengths is stopping the run, and he played in the 3-4. So that's why they went on and got an Anthony Jennings. Again, does that signal the end for Cam Jordyn? I don't know. We'll see. I think it does. But yeah, Kristen Miller is going to be a guy that fits right off that A gap, right? they're not going to be able to run past him inside. They're really not. So he's going to play a lot starting off. And is he going to start? I don't know, but he's going to play a lot. So I don't have a problem with Kristen Miller, the pick. I would wish they would have gone outside, but the Saints know better than I do. I gave that pick either a B- or a C+. Doesn't matter what I gave it. Again, meaningless. The other pick, again, I talked about this earlier. I didn't love the Barry Brown pick. It's 6th round. Who gives a damn in the grand scheme of things? You finally went on it. You went and got an LSU guy. First one since 2018. But really, you just drafted 2 receivers and a tight end. And then not only that, you drafted a guy in the 5th round in Lorenzo Styles, who is a defensive back, but he's also a special teams guy. So you kind of had already drafted that special teams guy. Now, maybe you think Barry Brown has potential to be Rashid Shaheed. Maybe he does. But, he wasn't a guy that I was actually, trying to look for in every play when he was at LSU. But maybe he will turn out to be and stick. He's certainly going to be a practice squad guy, I would think, to start off. So anyway, overall, I give the Saints an A-. I think they did everything. Not only what I wanted to see them do, I think they went into this draft with, this is our plan, and they stuck to the plan. Now, you might not like the plan, but that's what the plan that they identified. Again, surround and shuck, and at the same time, stopping the run. And then you also go out and get a guard at the same time who can compete. I don't think, and we never even really talked all that much in the grand schemes of things. We never talked about Jeremiah Wright all that much, but that's a project player. That's not a guy who I think has any chance to come. I mean, not that you're looking for a guy to start anyway. I think every offensive line slot is filled. Can he give you depth? I don't even know. I don't know if he can or not. We'll see. So plenty more to talk about. All these questions we talked about today, all this we talked about today, I am very interested. I kind of know some of Jeff Duncan's philosophy and thoughts, and I know that he personally would have taken Downs there. We're going to talk a little bit more probably. We didn't spend as much time talking about Tyson today as I kind of thought we would, because we kind of talked about the whole draft as a whole. And we will do that on Wednesday too, but we're probably going to spend more time on Wednesday talking about Jordyn Tyson himself. And, was that the right pick? Why he would have taken Downs instead? What does he think? What's going to change? So, yeah. A-Town, last comment of the day here, this before we go off this afternoon. Did anyone see Ruben Bain's facial expression when he got drafted by Tampa? Let's just say he wasn't happy, and it had nothing to do with the fact that it was Tampa. Nothing to do. Just going to say. Final poll results as we show them here on the screen. Other than Jordyn Tyson, who was your favorite New Orleans Saints draft pick, 46% of you went with Oscar Delp, 13% with Barry Brown, 33% with Bryce Lance, and 8% of you said someone other than those 3 guys. And I appreciate you voting in the poll. Also, one thing that I never told you before we go off the air here, I know a lot of you have left already, but one thing I'm also doing on SI is I'm writing a mailbag, at least 1 a week, maybe 2 a week. If you want to email me, you can, jim@jimderry.com. But I'm also taking comments from this show and putting them. So some of you probably didn't even notice this, but I did a mailbag last week, and the questions were all from this show. So some of you got your names on SI and you didn't even notice. So today I will be doing a mailbag later on this afternoon. I will get the mailbag from this show. Look, Jerry's still here. One of the things that I think is great about what we built here at Dattitude, and look, I would ask you one more time to subscribe if you haven't already done so to YouTube. We have a family here, and I don't say that lightly. For the small show that we are, in the grand scheme of things, we're a pretty small show. Trying to grow. We have close to 1,500 subscribers on YouTube. I have 2,600 followers on Facebook and 4,500 on Twitter. So in the grand scheme of things, this is a small show. Okay. We are growing. Ever since I got on Sports Illustrated, it's growing. However, that being said, the number of comments that we get on the show compared to other shows that have way more people subscribe to them and all that stuff, that's because we go out of our way. We want you to talk to us, and we want to talk to you. This isn't something we just do today. We do this every day. You talk to us. We talk to you. This show is for you. It's not for me. It's not for Gabe. It's not for the guests. I mean, this show is for you. And so we want you to have a voice in it. And for those of you that are new, and maybe you've been here one show, maybe you've been here 498 or somewhere in between, it doesn't matter. However many you've been, we thank you so much. Give us a like if you're watching, no matter where you are. Give us a thumbs up, a like, and subscribe. And we will be back and do this again on Wednesday. Again, Jeff Duncan, he will be here. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. Have a wonderful, glorious, it's going to be a great week. It's going to be warm, but it's going to be a great week as we go into a chilly weekend. We will see you all on Wednesday with Jeff Duncan. Until then, take it easy, my friends.